Hello, I'm Linda Ann Smith from the ColourArte Video Creator team. So that you can gather your supplies if you want to, I'm releasing this video that we normally celebrate this kind of thing in October and November in the United States, but I'm releasing it just a tiny bit early. We'll need something to paint on, a Sharpie marker, and Silks Acrylic Glazes in the colors Sunburst, Lemon Drop, Spicy Tomato, Emperor's Gold, Solar Gold, and Moss Green. On my second layer of painting, I use Liquitex pouring medium to cause the Silks Acrylic Glazes to be even more transparent. To start, I cut several pumpkin shapes in different sizes and different shapes. I cut them on the fold, but you'll notice right here that the pumpkin stem was not cut on the fold. I opened it up and clipped it off after it was cut. I made the stems extra wide. That way it afforded me the chance to cut away parts of it. I use a lot of the mixed media Strathmore pads for journaling and various art that I do, but you could do this on any substrate that you want to choose. I realized these white patterns were going to be hard to see on the background of a white page, so I painted them blue before I started so that you could see them more easily. So the first step is simple. You just start tracing pumpkins, and I turned most of them towards me so that they would be right side up, but this is going to look like a pumpkin pile when you get through, so the perspective isn't all that important. You're going to fill this entire page with pumpkins, leaving no white background. They overlap and they can be upside down and sideways, however you want them. And the first thing I started doing was painting in with the color Sunburst. Differences in the colors that I chose are very subtle, and I tried to place them on the page so that I was not painting any color to touch the same color again. Now I'm going to add the Emperor's Gold to this composition, and when I get it all filled in, everything painted in, I can start with a spicier color called Spicy Tomato. I use this color to make the stripes in the pumpkins, and sometimes I mixed it with previous colors that I'd already used on my page. Sometimes I mixed it with the Liquitex pouring medium so that it would be very, very transparent. And sometimes I just dipped my brush into it straight and made it really, really stripy. The goal here was not necessarily to blend like we spend a lot of time blending on so many paintings that we do, but the goal here was to get some stripes into these pumpkins. The inspiration for this painting came from a project that I used to do with my elementary art students many years ago. They would look at the color wheel, and I had huge boxes of crayons on the table, and they were to choose all of the crayons from red to yellow on the color wheel that looked like they would fit in between red and yellow. So of course they got all of the oranges, and then they would use those colors after they filled their page with pumpkins, and usually they drew them. You can draw them too instead of doing patterns. Usually they drew them, and then they would fill in each pumpkin with a different color that didn't touch the same color. So I've adapted this to today's painting. I always made sure there was no black crayon available in the room, because if they put that down first and colored on top of it, it was going to smear and they were going to get really frustrated with it. I hid all the black crayons until at the end of the project when it was time to trace the pumpkins. Once you have some layers going and some nice striping on each pumpkin, it's time to choose a color for the stem. And in keeping with autumn colors, brown or green seems to be a good choice. When I did this with elementary children, to keep a rhythm going, I encouraged them to use one color for all the stems. But if they decided to color 15 different colors for 15 different pumpkins, then it was their art and that was up to them. I chose moss green for my stems and used 2 or 3 coats of this paint. Here's where the painting starts to come to life and get vibrant. I outline each stem and each outer edge of every pumpkin on the page. And it helps to show that perspective of one lying behind another one. I do not go through the stripes yet. This step should be done when you're sure that the paint is completely dry, because nothing ends the ink in a Sharpie marker like wet paint. And a hint about that: if you will use 2 or 3 different Sharpie markers and alternate putting the lid back on and alternate using them that way, something about putting the lid back on seems to restore the ink so that you don't end up with a dry, difficult marker to use. I'm using the Sharpie to add a little texture in the stems. When these are all outlined, you could choose to stop right here and use it for a greeting card, maybe add some kind of a greeting to the front of it, or some embellishments such as some rhinestones or some twisted threads. But here's what I continue to do. I added a face to each pumpkin. This is what we did when we were doing it in elementary school. Each face has a different expression, and sometimes that gets hard to do because it gets hard to come up with a different expression or a different look. But we wanted all our pumpkins to have their own individual look. If you have trouble thinking of a new individual look for each pumpkin, just go to Pinterest or Google and Google cartoon expressions. A lot of times they'll have charts with different looks on it so that you can show surprise or fright or happy or sad or all of those different things. But as we all know, Pinterest has a great wealth of many things to help inspire us in art. If you have some Google eyes in your craft stash, that might be an interesting thing to glue on here. Here I'm adding just a few final touches, rounding out a few of the pumpkin stripes just slightly with my Sharpie pen. And this is where I'm going to leave my composition of pumpkins today. I found a happy accident that I didn't even know I'd created. Let me share it with you. See how worried this little baby looks on the right hand side of my page? He has good reason to be worried. The guy above him, it looks like he's going to take a bite. It might be fun to share this with your kids or grandkids and let them tell you what they think each pumpkin is thinking or saying. There's always new challenges and giveaways and tutorials at ColourArte, so be sure to go there and visit. Viewing this video on ColourArte's channel, look in the description box below the video and find my channel. Come and join me too. And if you happen to be viewing it from my channel, you need to go over to ColourArte and subscribe to their channel also. Thank you for watching.